Hi, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here. The company is Soilless Farm Labs, based in Nigeria. We are into protected agriculture, that's greenhouse farming as well as soilless farming. We operate on about 300 acres of land. We want to be one of the largest greenhouse farms in West Africa, if not Africa. That's the goal. And much more than that, we want to have our food in top shelves across the continent and across Europe. That's what we do. And much more than that, we are also, it's the pleasure to meet slave farmer. Love what they're doing in Sierra Leone. In Nigeria, we are trying to also ensure we can bring in young people into agriculture. And to do that, right now, we train 1,000 young people for free in what we do. Much more than that, we provide free accommodation. We pay them a stipend for the quarter when we are training them. And when they are done, we give them space within our facility for them to start and actually fund their startups. The whole idea is to ensure that young people come into agriculture without having to pass the hurdles of uncertainty, inefficiency, bureaucracy in government, and a whole lot that hinders growth of agribusiness in Nigeria. Thank you very, very much for the invite.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing.
Okay, like I always tell young people on the farm, I tell them the first thing that drove me into agriculture was I needed to be comfortable. I needed a life of comfort. And I saw a space in agri where, regardless of what you study, you have a role to play in agriculture. One. Number two, you can do what you studied in the agri space. That's the beauty of agri. I didn't study agri, I studied biochemistry. I have some of my staff today that studied medicine, different stuffs. In the farm, we have a clinic. It's not a farmer that is running the clinic. We have the doctors, the nurses, the medical lab scientists running the lab. These are people to be employed within the agricultural space. Two, and like I always tell the guys in the farm, is whatever strength it is that you have, agriculture has a space for you to explore that strength such that that strength can become the reason why you are well fed, why you have access to a decent life. So for me, it's much more or less we have a teeming population of young people graduating year in, year out looking for jobs. And we also have a large gap when it comes to ensuring food security. So can we bring in the right tools that would help young people see agriculture as a viable option? One. Two, can we help the young people remove the obvious obstacles that becomes the source of discouragement? Take, for instance, I'll always give you the example on the farm. I say, as a biochemist, I knew that after my BSc, you get an MSc. After MSc, you get a PhD. Do a lot of research papers, publications, you become a prof. And the more of that I get, the better the life I have access to. But when you are a farmer, you realize there is really no pathway that has been drawn out, which means the farmer becomes lost in the process because they don't know what is first, what is second, what to just do that is simple, that life takes you to the next level. So what we are trying to do in agri is, can I help these young people now see that this is what you do first? If you get this, you move here. You get this, you move here. I'll give another example. In agri generally, one of the other big issues is always funding. You have young people come around to me and say, oh, how do I get funding? How do I raise funds? How do I get here? How did you get here? How did you move from zero to where you are? And I'm able to teach them using my own experience to say, oh, we need to start from you getting results. Effort is not enough. Can you get results? Regardless of how small that result is, you have what it takes to fund yourself to get the result at your level. So even if it is only one plant you can grow that one plant. And I say two, once you have gotten results, you qualify for the next level, other people's money. In other people's money, you are using their money to replicate results, not try to get results. Because they are not giving you money to try to get results, they are giving you money to replicate what you've gotten. Then I start teaching them how to put in structure. I'm so glad that Shedrack talked about that a lot. I start teaching them this is how you put in structure, because I make them understand if you get more money than the structure, your business will become a Ponzi scheme. Why? You don't have the structure to support the business. So you are getting funds, start working on your structure, start working on your processes. Then I start teaching the CEOs. Now, this is the point where you stop focusing on the internal environment, you start focusing on the external, because once funding starts coming in, you are now answerable to the stakeholders, not answerable to the processes, because you should have trained people to manage the process. So this is an area we are focused on. From there, they now qualify to get funding from venture capitalists, get funding from big organizations, financial institutes. We have some of them that has gotten to that level, and suddenly they are realizing, oh, agri can be this awesome. I mean, Last week, I was discussing with a couple of young people, 20 of them, who just started their companies, and I told them, I am giving each of you 12 months to go from 0 to 50 million naira in a year. And I said, I am going to drill you people to ensure you get that. And this is how I do it. I make them read books. All the 20 of them must read one book per week. And we come together and discuss the book. Good part is I recommend the books for them so they cannot lie about they have read it. Because you read it, you come, we defend it, what it is. And we bring out these books based on where we see weaknesses. Then I teach them quickly, learn how to collaborate. So these are opportunities. Now, why am I saying all of this? It simply means that somebody else that is not in agri but that has the acumen for management has a role to play in agri. Somebody that has acumen for understanding figures, understanding finance, has a role to play in agri. Somebody that understands the language of the investors has a role to play in agri. Then from there, we tell them, oh, the next thing is now that you have gotten financial institutions are not interested in your little results. They will only give you money because you have capacity for what we call accelerated growth. So I tell them, do you really have a startup small business? Because a small business is a business that will take 10 years to grow, 20 years to grow, or even in 30 years, it's still at the same level. I say, but a startup is a small company that has capacity to grow very fast. So what we bring the VCs, the venture capitalists, the financial institute to your company is you have an idea that when money comes, because you have the structure, there is capacity for accelerated growth. And what determines capacity for accelerated growth is, I say, when you start getting results, start training people. Because the mistake some now start making is they start getting results, start making money, they start flying around the world. I said, no, start training people, because when it is time for accelerated growth, the people that you have trained are the reason why your company can grow. I said, now, once you can get to that level, in less than 5 years, you are going to get to the next level where you now have governmental support. Like I always tell them as a joke, I say, once you get to the point of governmental support, as the CEO, you can afford to be stupid. Reason is, if you fail, the government believe they have failed, so they will give you quantitative easing to get you out of the failure. I say, but before then, double down, which means if we are going to get to the point of quantitative easing from the government, what that simply tells us is we need to work with lobbyists. Lobbyists has a role to play in agriculture, because we need to lobby the government. We need to get policies that favors us, which means policy makers have a role to play in agriculture. So some of the guys on the farm are being trained to be policy makers. Some are being trained on how to do lobbying. Start from first working with the local kings, working with the local heads. How do you talk to them? How do you get what you want? How do you do proper CSRO in a way that it helps you? How do you help the community to help you reduce your cost of running business? So there is a whole lot in agriculture. Now notice, I'm not talking about the obvious ones like the processing that my sister talked about, the logistics, the storage. These are like the obvious ones. But there are a whole lot in agricultural value chain that when young people start having the idea and understanding these things, they now suddenly start realizing there is a role for me. I said, you may not even be the type that is outspoken. You can be the introvert. It is fine. Just sit behind the scene, write what we will say. Because I said there are lots of people that are doing great things. They don't know how to say it. So be the person behind the scene called the script writer that writes what they go and say. When they get out, they can say it properly. Or you can be the face of a business where the owner does not know how to speak. So you are eloquent, you are tall, you can speak well. Be the face of that business. It took a long while before we knew Dangote physically. It took a long while before we started hearing the Mark Zuckerberg speaking outside. But they had people who embodied the personality of the business, who were the face and the spokesperson of that business. So it's important that we start realizing agric is not just farm. Yes, farm is the foundation of agriculture, but that is the littlest part of agriculture. It is more than that. It's a conversation on life, because without agric, nobody lives, nobody wears clothes, nobody gets drugs, nobody lives in a house. So it simply means that it's a conversation that goes or cuts across everybody that is alive and even dead. Because even if you are dead, you still need agric to bury you. We need agric to decompose the body.